Up next, we have for you Dr. Elsbeth Meuth and Freddy Zental Weaver, who have assisted thousands of couples and singles in creating lasting intimacy and fulfillment in their life and their relationships. They've been featured on Showtime, they've been featured on NBC, they've been featured all over the world. These two are really a power couple in the Tantra industry, and they're so much fun for us to tune in with and to have deep conversations with. They've coached billionaires, innovators, and power couples all over the world and shared their intimacy secrets at a global YPO conference in the city of love, which is Paris. We got to talk sexual enlightenment with them, and you're going to love this episode.
So drop in, turn on, and fall in love with Freddy and Elsbeth.
Welcome to the Sex Reimagined Podcast, where sex is shame-free and pleasure-forward. Let's get into the show.
All right, we are so blessed and excited to be here again with Freddy and Elsbeth. We just love these two, and we're diving in today with sexual enlightenment. So, I mean, what the heck is it? There's so many aspects of it, right, that come into play. And why don't you guys start by telling us just like what's the definition of it in your opinion?
Yeah, well, I'll start off. This is Freddy Zental. I will say that sex has been creating life before we had language. When we bring consciousness to the sexual, the kernel of that energy, creativity, and pleasure starts showing up in areas of life that seem completely unrelated to sex and the simple process of living. So as opposed to, well, I hate my job, 30 more years of retirement, when we bring consciousness to the vibration and the frequency that thought creates, that conversation, we're listening differently. That dog doesn't hunt anymore. So we start coming from a different place of listening to the vibration of creativity and pleasure as a default way of listening in our language, observations, conversations, life. So that's the intelligence. And there's ways to tap into it. Anybody in a body who's willing can get it.
Yeah, so the beauty of the human being is that we have a conscious mind. In many ways, we are just like animals. We have this nervous system, just like animals, that is very habitual. To some extent, fortunately, to some extent also that we, of course, get locked into certain ways of being that may limit what we are actually able to experience. So by tapping consciously into our life force energy that is sexual in nature, we can be fueled by that energy. And there is a key difference. While in the primal self, we are like animals, and it's wonderful. And just like when you think of it, like the way we have intercourse is just like animals have intercourse. When they are in heat, they hump each other. The same movement in the pelvis we do. Nobody in their teens get ever taught how to move their pelvis. In intercourse or even in self-pleasuring, the pelvis may start moving. So this is what I mean by habitual, that's built into the nervous system, that is not taught. Then, unlike the animals, the human being has this conscious mind, which means that we have the capacity to self-reflect. So we are not just at the effect of that life force energy that may have us horny or not horny or whatever. We can bring awareness to that wonderful life-giving energy and learn to guide it, to channel it from our sexual center into our heart center, into our spiritual center, and all over. And we can create with this energy, not just biologically like new life, but also we can create ourselves, our love, and our dreams.
Okay, so this is building on a thread. I think what you just said is probably going to build on the answer of this next question, because we have a lot out there about spiritual enlightenment, right? With lots of different traditions all over the world. How is sexual enlightenment different from spiritual enlightenment?
Okay, I think they're synonymous, but here's my feeling of having taught this with people and in my own life for 21 years and being in it since I was 13, and I'm 66 now. So this is the thing. So we're these big brain thinking Homo sapiens figuring out the universe forever. Our minds don't stop. We have stories. We are this clay, this carbon clay that remembers from the past into the now, into the future. And what connects us to this elegant design of the universe that goes on forever is our imagination, to see or imagine something that's never been before in our life, in relationships, in work, and whatever. So in the sexual enlightenment piece, when we are in our sexual piece, this divine altered state of consciousness that happens, chemically we're changed, more endorphins, serotonin, oxytocin, the feel-good hormones, emotionally more connected, intimate, loving, vulnerable, aligned with some of the distinctions of breath awareness, of energetic awareness, and intention, using the sexual altered state as a meditation. In addition to all the other things, but learning these distinctions as a meditation, we get more unmasked to this possibility that we see, to then work with the clay that we are and the stories and the neurosynaptic memory that keeps us in a place, to then move with ease, grace, and flow towards what we most deeply desire. And that's the nuts and bolts, if you excuse the pun, the nuts and bolts of working with life force of sexual energy. And as I say, anybody in a body can get it. It's like, and this is remembering what we've forgotten. It's like, because when we were in the womb and it was womb service, it was just totally, absolutely wonderful, just floating in the embryonic fluid. We were just present and our brains had developed. And all of a sudden we're born, boom, bright lights, smacked on the bottom. Some guys are getting their wee-wees cut. I mean, thinking, send me back. And then this whole life happens and unfolds. And we learn how to navigate, and we create stories about, to exist and survive through it. And then we get to a certain point where we want to do something that we've never done before. And this is where the sexual intelligence comes in, where we can use that altered state to get out of our own story making that we do to move into a new story.
I love that. That's beautiful. If you got a body, what was the saying?
Anybody in a body can get it.
Anybody in a body can get it. I want that bumper sticker. That is so good.
It's a song. I think it's definitely a hook. It's a lyric.
Yeah, it's a good one. So what about if you're single? Like, tell me a little bit about how we play with the actualization of sexual enlightenment in partnership or out of partnership.
Leah, it's curious that it actually starts within. I cannot experience sexual enlightenment with a beloved or partner when I'm not already connected in that way within myself, because it's never given by another. Mm-hmm. It's the misconception we grow up with, that I can only fully love when I'm with another. I can only be fulfilled, or, to be fulfilled by another. And so in maturing in life, we come to, if we want to engage in that it's all within already. We may have forgotten about it. So the sexual enlightenment dimension that is so unfamiliar to the Western, or perhaps to the global human community. Even in the East, often that is no longer practiced while it comes from there, but it's like forgotten. And so this dimension of becoming aware of our sexual energy, like really conscious, because I can make a baby not being conscious. It's built into us. So bringing conscious awareness to this and integrating it with my heart and with my mind, my spirit, that allows then a flow to occur that has been there originally, but we may have compartmentalized these different dimensions of energy. And so in the reintegration, we come to wholeness. As you know, that is a solo practice. We call it a self-love practice, where I can channel my wonderful, alive, creative, pleasurable energy up from my yoni center, which is the sexual center of the woman, up into my heart. My heart can open. Freddy calls this then heartgasm. And then I can also guide it all the way into my third eye, including then channeling it into my projects, like the book. I remember when we wrote the book, like that has been a few years ago. It's now out in audio as well. But when we wrote it, I had these writer block. I didn't know. I felt like I had nothing to say. I mean, who was interested in what I want to say there anyway? That is, and I actually just said, okay, Elsbeth, shift it, do a self-love practice, recalibrate, connect your life force energy with your heart energy, with your mental energy. And that got the flow going. And then a conversation usually after that with Freddy really helped, because he comes from such different places often than I. And it, oh yeah, I hadn't thought about that. You know? So then we are
Yeah, it really grounds it.
yeah, and the grounding and the flow, because stuckness always has to do with constriction of energy in the mind anywhere.
So I always think of human beings as made up of four things. Like we've got our physical, our spiritual, our emotional, and our psychological, right? And so
Yeah.
what you're talking about is really integrating all of those inside of yourself and running sexual energy through your own physical channels and meridians to access this higher consciousness, so that you have more presence for your own self-love practice, self-pleasuring practice, which you then have such a defined pathway where this energy flows in your body that you can easily then share it with another. It's like your cup runneth over, and then you're spreading it and you're sharing it with another. And another thing that I love that you said, Elsbeth, is like, when you get a little bit off, you get writer's block, or like, oh, something's not right with my relationship, or something's just off in my life, and you come back to that self-love practice, to the inner beloved, and you reconnect to that self-pleasure inside, it shifts everything and lets the energy flow again.
Yeah, I want to add too, is sometimes people get lost in, well, they're looking for some kind of woo-woo or something. And it's like the chemical shifts and the altered state of consciousness that happens in the sexual allows us to tap into something that's always available to us, which is that watcher, that witness aspect of our connection to this consciousness that we are beyond this clay. It's like that altered state that happens in the sexual allows us to some freedom from the clay that we are.
Yeah,
the neuro and the story and all the stuff that we think is real. Yeah. And yet it's all real, yet also this consciousness is real. Yeah. Our dreams are real. We're dreaming this whole thing up.
And how much do we love this moment of orgasm, climax, ejaculatory moment, this height in feeling, because the mind is shut off for a moment. We cannot think and be in that high pleasure state at the same time. It's so freeing, it's relieving, it's, like that. And how would it be to actually have ways of bringing this into my being and into my life within and then with my beloved every so often, or quite often?
Yeah, quite often. Let's bring it in quite often.
Yeah, there's something that I really love that everyone is bridging here, because one is we can get stuck in our own way. And so what I hear from you, Elsbeth, is like these moments of like imposter syndrome, like, why would anyone care about what I have to say? And then being able to suspend that for a minute and go, what do I need to get out of my own way so I can get back to that natural stream of God consciousness that is in me, that is in you, that is in all of us, that can tap into this thing that's been here the whole time. And we all actually share that in common. We all have access to that. It brings me back to this like idea of the God that's looking out my eyes is actually the same consciousness that's looking out of your eyes and your eyes and your eyes. And so it's being able to like go in and trust in that. And when our ego is like, but why me? And self-doubt and all of these things, to just go, there's got to be a way out of that touch of suffering, right? That doubts ourselves, that isn't totally sure of ourselves. And I love that there's a sexual practice, that there's a way to love ourselves back to this state where we get relief. Like that's back to that orgasmic moment where we get respite from this busy thinking, worrying, distracted mind, and we get to go suspend. And it's not a passing out, it's a passing in. Blissful. And then the genius can really flow. And the thing that I think, what a gift is to be able to, like, coming back to a writing project with your partner and sharing the creative process with someone who has their own voice and also is connected to that consciousness within them, where the two get to play together. So when you were in the process of writing this book, did you sit down together and write it? Did you say, okay, you do this part, I'll do this part? Did you both contribute to the same chapter? Did you divide and conquer chapters? Like, describe to us the process, the actual process of like writing a book, which to me it seems so daunting.
Oh, this is where really our differences came beautifully into co-play. So Freddy, as you can already, by the way he speaks, like he has the imagination. He's like a free bird. He thinks about this one moment and something totally different the next moment, where I think, okay, how am I going to orient myself right now? I'm much more linear in my thinking, very organized. And so we usually had meetings together more to develop the ideas. So what do we want to cover in this next chapter, or the whole outline of the book? We also worked with a ghostwriter, but we really had to supply everything.
Yeah, because our writing was pretty academic. It just came out that way. So the ghostwriter really helped to make it a story, really turned it into an interesting story as opposed to just...
So, but the ghostwriter doesn't supply anything. It's just like in supporting the process and then getting it on.
Yeah, the creative process. Yeah.
So we sat down and we talked about it. I took notes and then I pulled it together. And I'm used from my doctorate. There's a lot of writing, so it was not a big deal for me once I was connected.
Just another dissertation for her.
No.
Okay.
I needed to be connected with what was the oomph, what was the spirit, what was the, and but at times I was just so in my head then about it. It was not flowing. And that a conversation talking about flow, the sexual flow, the energy, and I call sexual energy life force. It's not just having sex, because in our mind, the Western mind, it's so single-minded focus on sex. Like, no, this is an energy, a flow of being alive. And so Freddy brought a lot of aliveness to me, because he then just went into what's the essence of it? And it's not that he asks the question, what is the essence? He just blurts it out. Sometimes, wow, how could I forget about this? And I think it has a lot to do with the way he grew up and was so, just, he was brought up in a very, open sexual household and learned Tantra early. It was always about flow and not regulations, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Doing this work as a work and a profession for the last 21 years is really brought my authentic self out. I was like this fraud in corporate America, this kid who was like raised with a hippie psychiatrist dad with sex parties and traveling all over the world and just existential conversations, living on a houseboat next to Alan Watt, who was our friend, who Fred and my father used to do workshops together. I mean, this kind of was my early life. And then in corporate America with folks who hadn't left Kansas. And it's like, but we were making money and doing our thing in the corporate world. But I always felt like a fraud. Like there was something more for me to be doing in this life. So in doing this work, I've been able to do my singing. I think I mentioned it before we got on air. And that's a creative self-discovery in the music and movement and art. Because when I'm in my music and singing in front of an audience, there's a place that I can tap into, and I'm getting more and more consistent with it, that is complete flow. And it's complete connection. It's like that quantum connection that you were talking about earlier in terms of I'm you and you're me. Physically, I am you, you're me. Chemically, we're all the earth. Atomically, we're the universe. It's all connected, and science is sharing that more and more, and people are going to see that. Our thoughts are as powerful as anything. We're creating this whole thing. Like if you say peace is only a thought away, when you think about it, yeah, it makes sense. But yet we haven't made the quantum spiritual leap to creating it. And once we start getting the connection of science in our thought, we will create this utopia. And things will just start coming like boom, like so it's just like Sai Baba, just like here it is, boop,
Yeah, but also this is what this whole sexual enlightenment is about. That it's not just somewhere in the future, the state of peace. How can we, person by person, couple by couple, cultivate that now, and that I want to connect with our beautiful life-giving energy. It's already here. We are not producing that energy. Connect with our energy, compassion energy. Connect with that wonderful, amazing mind, because when we focus the mind, there's nothing that we couldn't do it. It's not the shadow mind that creates, supported by the life force energy. It's the focused, intentional mind. And then connecting with that, what you call the God connection, with the conscious connection, where we are the universe and the universe is us. Of course, we want to cultivate that because we don't learn that in grade school. But that is where, for me, peace on earth is actually cultivated now. And I think by being in that vibration of flow, I will affect my environment, the people around me. I don't even have to open my mouth. I will be in a different way with my beloved. Instead of complaining what he doesn't do, I will in appreciation of what contribution he is to my life every day. That is where I bring my focus to, my awareness. And so, yeah.
I love what you're pointing out because, like, I think when people think of enlightenment, they think it's something outside themselves that they have to somehow become. And what you're saying is that it's already inside. The cultivation part of it is remembering that it's inside, remembering that you have access to it.
Remembering, that's it.
Yet, like, bringing it back to the now state, being compassionate when you lose it, and knowing where to find it inside of yourself. And so there's this part of our sexual nature that is creative in nature, that is about the creative process, and that we don't have to, like, only be in the heart to find enlightenment, right? Or only be in a specific part of our enlightened mind to be in enlightenment. It's really, we can embody enlightenment, and we must actually go a little further down and not see sex as only this thing we see in movies or this thing we do to make babies, but that there's sex inside of us where that yin and yang merge, where that place of creation is magic, and we are the magic. We don't have to wait to die to have it. We can have it right here. Love it.
That's right. And Freddy, what you were speaking to, when you get in front of an audience and you're singing and you've got that, you're in that flow state. I mean, that's essence pouring through you in that moment, which essence really is the foundation for each one of us individually that creates our experience of enlightenment through the vehicle of sexuality. So
yes.
I'm curious, we've got all kinds of listeners, right? We've got people who've been on the path for a while, and these things can take years sometimes, or sometimes months. It can go quicker, it can go slow. And so if somebody's, let's say, been in a marriage since they were in their early 20s, they're a totally different person now. They've had 3 or 4 kids, and they're still in this marriage, but they're not connecting spiritually with their partner. They're not connecting spiritually with themselves. And they definitely aren't connecting sexually. Like, where's a starting point for them? Where's a jumping off point for them?
I'll start the conversation with saying that if you have a vision of what you want to create, these practices can help you get out of your way to allow it in. If you have an idea committed to that you want to create in the relationship, then you can move towards it.
So let's go to that couple that you described.
So intention then, yeah, that's what you're saying.
Core intention is desire. We only formulate an intention through desire. Could be a physical desire, could be an emotional desire. It could be like a constructive, like architecture desire. So, like certain forms. So
are you saying, Elsbeth, that, like, before you can really connect to the intention, you have to first have a desire to want to correct what is missing, or to, like, if we're talking about this couple, it's like someone's got to have the desire to come and be closer, to want to find that within themselves or within the partnership.
Yeah.
That elevated emotion.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the next question, just to go off of Leah's question, is do they both need to have the desire, or is one?
So the first
Lots of questions
is
here.
to, am I just so used to my situation that nothing else even is on my horizon?
Resigned.
If that, yeah, or even not being in touch. That is just how we have
Mhm.
this is how we continue to live.
Right.
So there is very little opening then for anything new. Most of couples are not there. There's usually at least one who would like to create something new. I mean, we have couples come over and over again in that very state that you described.
Just at a workshop this weekend, this stuff came up, same stuff.
And so we start out every workshop where people get to articulate their intention, and which is in itself a process, because the clearer I'm connected with my intention, which is fueled by the desire,
Mhm.
more I can live into a future and feel the future being now, even when it hasn't happened yet.
It's been said, clear intention, elevated emotion changes matter, physical matter.
So
Clear intention.
Say that again, Freddie. Say that again.
Clear
That's
intention.
Yeah,
good.
say it again.
Clear intention with an elevated emotion changes matter, physical matter.
yeah.
So the
How do we elevate our
that, yeah.
emotion?
Yeah, because if I want something, like I'm in a relationship, as you described, I'm the woman, and I think, oh, I would really like to have wild sex with my husband. It's totally gone. I feel just tired and I feel like so disconnected. But there is a spark.
Yeah.
Now, if this woman says, if I were to say, oh, I really want this, but I know I never can have it, that induces an emotion of resignation, of no possibility.
resistance.
And then it's not going to happen.
Right.
I'm going to open myself up to the
Right.
possibility, and then feeling it from a place of joy. I'm looking into this corner because I see it already coming, and I feel it. Now, these practices, so that I can feel it, we need to develop, particularly in a relationship where there was such a disconnect for so long. So back to your question, Willow, that one, is it enough? Yeah, there needs to be one who feels the wish, the desire, so that I then can bring the desire to my partner and say, you know, I really would love to be more connected with you. I feel the kids are gone now, and are you open to that?
Yeah. Now,
Look at that. That was easy.
yeah,
That looked easy.
exactly.
And
For you guys.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing about it. I want to say that there are a lot of ways to have or to get actionable insights. Couples can do therapy, and thank you, doctor, for helping me see this and da 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 da. But how do we actually shift it in the moment, in the real, right? And so that's where these practices are so vitally important, because we are this clay, this physical vibration. And so really tapping into an idea, and then the resistance energetically and emotionally and vibrationally to that idea. It's like we keep fighting we're our own worst enemy. Saying we want something, but then believing that it's not really possible or can't happen. So really getting all of that clear, and that's where these practices become really powerful.
Yeah. So finding congruence between the one inside that's like, I want that thing, and the one inside who's like, but I'm not worthy. Like, I can't have that thing. I can't make
it's
that
a
thing a
purging.
reality.
options
Yeah.
here below. One is the option that just happened between Freddie and me, where one brings it up, the other says, yeah, I've thought about that myself. Or, yes, what could we do? That's first option. Second option is that I come to Freddie and he's a total no. But what? No, I'm so busy with my work. This is not where I have my focus on. Or she may not even dare to bring it up because she already anticipates a no. The third option is that one feels the spark, brings it to the other may be reluctant or not. What's essential then is then the one with the spark to keep going, not to give up, and to listen what may be enticing, what may be of interest to him from my role, like what what keeps him up at night? How does he like to feel? Given that I may have lived with him for 20 years, I know him pretty well. So I could lead him to the water gently, step.
Yeah. One thing I see a lot is the one who has the desire will bring it to the other, and the other will feel like what I'm not good enough. They'll start to go into that
Defensiveness?
sort of
Ego.
like, oh, yeah, defensiveness and ego, and just a lot of like their own pain. They'll just go into their own emotional pain. Like, oh, the sex we have isn't good enough for you, or spiritual connection that we have isn't satisfying you,
Is
then that must
lacking,
mean that you
right.
don't love me. And yeah, and so they just go into this whole story, right? And so I think, and then there's that fear. And then the one who has the desire is like, shit, I don't even want to bring it up because I don't want
Because I won't get it.
start a whole churn cycle. Yeah.
People have to be willing. They
So
have to be
yes,
willing.
but really I want to go back to that. Listen to the desire within and hold it in your heart. Do not give up on it. You need to believe it. If I don't believe it, I cannot bring it to another and invite him. And what I said earlier with the elevated emotion, now that is some practice. I'm not saying from one day to another, but that is going back to learning all of that. Sexual enlightenment is then a gestalt that we live in, that we experience. I have been practicing it for the last 21 years, 22 years. Freddy for what? Since he was 13.
A lifetime.
Right.
But it's moment by moment. You're never like, okay, I'm done. I don't have to do that meditation anymore. I'm done.
No.
I've seen the enlightenment. I'm
Yeah.
enlightened now. No, it's like, because I'm the clay, we're all the clay. I was going to say that, it's stillness, that people who are stuck in some kind of ego loop with their partner in their life. Okay, got it. And then you do something like we do, teach particular body work practices for people, for couples particularly, where they're just asked to be in the experience of that. And in the parasympathetic breathing, because that gives them a little space from the cha-cha upstairs, right? And then they start to get a familiarity and some accessibility to that stillness. And we make it clear that it's in that still place. There is space then in that nothingness to create the possibility. And that circumvents the ego and the story making and all of that stuff. And then most people, even with low EQ, get that, because that is, if it's anywhere, it's everywhere in terms of this stillness and this being accessible to people beyond this thinking mind and the story stuff.
Yeah, I can't remember which one of you said it, but you used the word willing. Like, two people have to at least be willing enough to get curious.
Yes.
And our judgments are going to arise, right? Our fears are going to arise. Our defensiveness is going to arise. Like, we can probably expect those things to be encountered, right? As we feel these vulnerable parts of ourselves that aren't sure about being good enough, or whatever the storyline is. And so there's an invitation. And what I want to invite the audience to tap into is a willingness to be malleable, to be influenceable, to be curious. That if we can be in our partnership practicing, am I willing to be influenced right now? My partner is sharing a desire. This isn't about me feeling obligated. This isn't even about me agreeing or not agreeing. It's, can I come into my heart and be that place that can witness my love's desire? And let that stillness just like be there for a moment without having to do anything, but just like,
Yeah,
your desire is important. And that doesn't mean I have to fulfill it. Can I just be with you in it?
right.
And I think it's from like that, learning how to build that space within ourselves opens up these other doors. And then these desire doors, right? It's like we crack the door open here and we look inside and we feel into it, and we're with each other and we practice curiosity when we're noticing judgment, and then that opens up another door to desire, and what's in there? Ooh, never thought I'd think of that one. let's go in a little further. It's like you can start to just play in the stillness.
And when you think about where the sexual energy leads you to that nothingness in those 3 seconds of the orgasmic space, and that's the intelligence. And that's what we can learn to draw on as a guide back to ourselves, back to that stillness, to then move into the dream of dreaming our lives the way we want them, out of this clay that we are. And that's the intelligence of working constantly with sexual energy.
You know what this is? What I'm feeling in my body right now, just like being a part of this conversation and hearing the two of you speak, is like all of a sudden I feel more relaxed, like my belly isn't as tight and my heart feels a little more open, and like whatever, like this thing that we're carrying, this like intensity or this pressure, like we have pressure to like do all this stuff right. It's like suddenly I feel more creative, like my body feels more open. I feel more relaxed. I'm feeling the tension shift, and we don't have to even do anything. It's just being a part of a conversation. There's a sense of hope that's arising in my being right now. And also not having to take all of this so seriously. I think we get so scared in our partnership, like we don't want to lose each other, and we think it could be better and what's wrong with us, and like these little fears. We may not even know the thoughts. It's just like this feeling of, am I doing it right? And am I going to lose something? When you just get to be in this conversation, you just get to like let go.
It's so great that you brought
Yeah, it's about receiving your partner and where they're at, and just being present to what they are trying to express. And it's a very vulnerable, it's a hard thing to express. I find it so interesting that it can be so much harder to be vulnerable with somebody that you've been with for 20 years than it is to be with a brand new person.
Sometimes
right? Because
that's true.
you've always been this certain way with them. And all of a sudden you're like, wait, I'm not really that way. Like I have some other
Anymore,
authentic
right.
truth that wants to come out
Right.
anymore. Yeah, I'm not who I was when we got married.
Right.
And so, now this other authentic piece of me, I don't know what it is, but I want to explore it. I want to explore it with you. And I'm not even sure how to talk about it. And it's like, that can be even harder to be vulnerable with that type of relationship.
We've gone through a lot of maturations in our
Yes.
21 years
So
together.
I just want to say, because such a crucial moment right now, what just came up in the conversation, with the invitation that fear may arise. And fear always has to do with, like, I cannot do it the way she may want it or he may want it, or going into I'm not good enough, or the whole performance thing. And so much in the sexual awareness in our culture, which is totally focused on performance. And what happened just a moment earlier, Leah, when you said, oh, I feel more relaxed in my belly now. I think it had something to do because we were navigating with like, oh, just being open to the possibility without expectation. Even I don't know what to expect of myself, and I have this desire. I haven't had sex with him for 20 years or 10 years or however long. That may be even frightening for myself. But there is something within me, so that we then come in a way to each other as a possibility, like with appreciation and something like, darling, do you remember how it was when we met each other? How we were into each other? Would you like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Those were good times.
Freddie's so easy. He's just like, yeah, bring it on.
Yes.
But most partner would want that.
Yeah.
Because
we all want that.
Unless they are so estranged from each other. And that is then great to discover. Because why would I stay with a partner where there is no longer any synchronicity, even to be imagined?
And the work that we're doing with them as a way to consciously uncouple.
Okay.
No, they come here to find back to each other.
Yeah, and then they find that, we really decided in our happiness that we want to be separate.
Not a lot of couples, but
not a lot,
some
but
come. And in the work, it's really facing ourselves in terms of what our desire is. And then no longer to sell out.
Right.
And that at times that happens, they get so crystally clear, which is such a precious moment. It makes
Mm-hmm.
it so comfortable, but honest and authentic.
When I was an event coordinator for Source Tantra, it was oftentimes something that a couple would call and they would be encountering, like, is this going to save my relationship? Because we are this close to divorce lawyers and we've tried everything. And my response was always, Tantra doesn't promise to save your relationship. What Tantra will promise is to bring you back home to yourself so that you can live from your truth. And wouldn't you want your partner to live from their truth? And wouldn't you want to live from your truth? And so your truth may bring you back to the same road, or it may help you see that your roads are now going in different directions. But what if you went in different directions from a place of love and respect and friendship versus having to pay divorce lawyers and give away all of your hard-earned money and then hate each other and then have the children hurt further? Like, this is what Tantra will promise you. It will not save your relationship, but it will bring you back home. So it's worth hopping in. Is that something that the two of you resonate with in terms of how you see Tantra and couples?
Well,
Absolutely.
I want to say as well, it's great when a couple sees, like, the old sales thing where you do a T-bar and on the left you got the things you don't want, on the right you got the things you do want. And in the relationship on the right, there's like 1,000 things that work. And then on the left, there's maybe one or two things. Maybe it's money or sex or
The
something,
key.
right? And so for them to design consciously by agreement their relationship now forward for like a year or 6 months or 3 months or whatever timeline they want to set. And they agree to whatever it might be. It might be, well, I want to be open now and try other sexual relationships, or whatever it might be. Or I want to live somewhere else in the world without you for a week or for a month, and whatever. And then you work with what comes up emotionally and energetically as a resistance to that. But the opportunity in relationship is to see something about yourself that you otherwise wouldn't see. Because I'm fine by myself in the forest, but when I'm triggered with another and I'm in my relationship there, that's when I get to see some of my resistance and stuff. So this flattening all of that stuff to life, so that in the end, when it's over, it's like, man, what a life. Boom.
That's really juicy. Okay, I need you to parse that out just a little bit more for me. All right, so let's pick one item on that right-hand side of the column that goes, okay, this is the part that's not working really great, in conjunction with this is what I want. So one of the things you said was like open the relationship, or maybe go to Europe for 3 months and without you. So how do you work with a couple given that information? Do you have them explore? It sounds like you have them explore the idea. Okay, your partner wants to go away from you for 3 months. Now, what arises? Like, can you help me parse that out a little bit?
Yeah. So we identified 12 domains of creating fulfilling and lasting relationships. And the first three of them are sex, love, and romance. They are distinctly different domains. And we have them collapsed. That love and sex and romance have to be together until death do us part. And it starts in the beginning with that promise that is so elusive. No clear conditions are set, but lots of expectation. So we are just working with a gentleman who is married and who fits a little bit that kind of couple, where she is not open to engaging sexually. She's doing her own work, and he really wants to have sex. And of course, in the process, lots of stuff comes up for him where he hadn't been sexually self-expressed, and now in his 50s, he is very confronted with that.
Mm.
So we worked with him on identifying exactly, like, there are all the dimensions, the domains where they have a great marriage. They love each other. They have wonderful kids, beautiful home. She has her work. He has his work. They go on meditation retreats together. Everything from here to here, they are connected. Going to the sexual, they are not. And of course, all of that, what we talked about earlier, then feeling bad about himself or not good enough or he never can have it and what's wrong with me, all of that shows up, you know.
Okay.
So for him now, he decided to explore it for himself, to learn more. This is why he's working with us. Again, the return to self. So not looking outside for the fulfill myself. Now, again, this is a process, this doesn't
Mm-hmm.
happen overnight, but certain dimensions open up, and with them opening up, his trajectory can change. Because if I look at myself like there's something wrong with me, there's nothing to be gotten. However, if I can open up that, wow, there may have been experiences in the past that may have set that trajectory, but I don't need to subscribe to these anymore. I can start a new way of being, and that then can be cultivated. So the freeing of the past, we're seeing new possibility, and the learning of integrating sexual, emotional, mental, and spiritually, that is really opens up a new way of being grounded, autonomous, self-connected, and that pleasure actually arises from within. Nobody can give me pleasure,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love that.
Now then
Mhm.
I can share it. We had lots of conversation, how do I bring myself to the other? That is then another question for him, not yet, because he
Yeah.
wants to be fully complete here, like integrated, so that whenever he comes with an invitation, it's not an intrusion, an imposition felt by her, perhaps. I'm not saying he's intruding, but it
Right.
might be how it's experienced. So how can I bring myself without expectation? Because the expectation has me be in a certain energy that then creates the lack of freedom.
So it sounds like that like the invitation is, and for our audience, like if you're going through an experience right now and you feel, let's say, sexual frustration, and you're making it about your partner and needing to partner with you to relieve whatever sexual frustration or whatever that is that you're not getting, and you're wanting to give it to your partner as if it's their job to fulfill it for you. You're saying, let's take a minute and go, let's find the fulfillment in you first. Instead of making it someone else's job, where's that sovereignty inside of yourself so that you can now encounter yourself and the parts that you think are lacking or missing? And what if you could fill that up from the inside so that when you turn back towards your partner and you want to do the dance, it's not coming from a place of like neediness or grasping or projecting obligation or lack or scarcity, which then for the partner, they get to turn towards that and will likely feel a different type of response if it's not coming from resentment and expectation and neediness. I got that right?
Yes, and then Leah, also we want to start out not just going right to sex.
Right. Right. Ding, 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 everybody.
Because we want to go there.
Yeah, because that's a big trigger.
Yeah.
Anyone notice that? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and actually, our foundations workshop, 3-day foundations workshop for couples and singles, is all about cultivating emotional intimacy. The next one, the spark workshop, the advanced workshop, is then where we teach.
They learn the rituals, the
the
sex ritual
sexual
practices.
rituals.
But there's a mudra hold that we teach in that first the SLI that puts people right in the space of like the same intimacy that we get connected to in the sexual, and they're clothed, and it's just a mudra, the sacrum and the top, and that puts people immediately into, oh, I'm seen, I'm vulnerable, I'm accessible,
I'm happy.
held, and that can be really powerful for people, especially around looking at these kinds of very, very deeply triggering, opportunities, I call them, for people, because the
Yeah.
whole marriage thing and relationship, if you could see it as an opportunity for transformation, because you look at that whole thing, until death do us part, for better or for poor, richer or for less, it's like, but the fine print should be, unless you really piss me off. So But so if you
Right,
could really be committed in a way that really the opportunity is to learn to allow the other to be totally who they are
Right.
in this life.
That's the
Ding,
crux of it
ding.
all, right?
And
That's going to be the
for
healthy
ourselves, each of us,
relationship
to
that
own
lasts.
our own upset. We are born alone and we die
Yeah,
alone. I don't care how close we are in relationship with
that's
people.
right.
You got to keep it real for yourself, and so
Yeah.
keep approaching your life like that. There's nobody out there that's authoring this book.
Mm.
And by the way, Leah, if you wanted to write a book, have these conversations transcribed and what you say there. You have the book. I mean, it needs
Yeah.
editing,
Mm-hmm.
and then a structure, what the point is and where you want to go with it. But don't sit down and write. Just you speak beautifully.
Oh, thank you.
It's all
Yes.
good.
Yeah,
Mm.
transcription will go a
Transcription
long
for
way
this
in
girl.
writing a book for
You guys are
sure.
doing a collective book.
Dictation to transcription.
Willow,
Yeah, I think
someday we
we
will.
will write a
Will
collective
write a
book.
book.
I just finished
Yeah.
my first book.
We want-
Sex
Yeah.
Reimagined.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's Sex as Medicine is
Sex
the
is
book,
medicine.
actually.
We got to
So,
get that. We're
yeah,
going to get
working
that.
on Sex
Let's
as
go as soon as we can get it.
Yeah,
And Willow
it's
is,
a good one. It's just got to get out there.
it's wonderful partnering with Willow because she has a talent for writing. So I get to sort of lean into that because
nice.
for me, what takes her a few minutes feels like it takes me a few hours.
Yes, everybody's got their kuleana or their gift. Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So Willow, I know
Kuleana, good
you were going to
word.
say, I think you might have had a
Yeah,
comment or a question.
I think that seems to be like one of the primary things that all of us, when we're working with individuals, is we're bringing them back home to their own inner beloved, their own self essence, and their own like authentic truth. Like there's a lot less like resistance and constriction when they're actually standing in that truth and holding it as something that is important and something that they need to be orienting to and moving from, moving forward.
How would it be if we just did a short practice for the individual, how to connect with themselves, like in nanoseconds,
Mm-hmm.
by coming
Yeah.
more to inner connection, and then how that would look in the couplehood?
Would love that.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So everybody sit up. So I'm going to do the solo, and then you can guide the couple. Colin?
Okay. Where are you leading? Okay, good.
So you want to place your right hand on right above the pubic bone below the navel. This is your creation center. And then the other hand in the middle of your heart between your breasts on your chest. And when you are ready, close your eyes and exhale all air. Then take in a deep breath all the way into the belly and feel how the belly opens up into the hand. And on the exhalation, let the breath trickle down and out into the seat. Again, taking in a deep breath through the nose all the way down into the belly. Now notice opening the belly. And when the belly is full, it moves up into the chest, into the left hand. And on the exhalation, send the energetic breath down from your heart into the right hand. Again, a deep breath in, filling the belly, opening the belly into the right hand, breathing up, filling the chest opens into the left. And on the exhalation, following the breath, moving down from your heart into your creation center, your sexual center, your pleasure center. Breathing in, the belly opens all the way up into the heart. And on the exhalation, send your loving heart energy down into your creation center, into your sexual center. Breathing in, opening the belly all the way up into the heart center. On the exhalation, send the breath down with the love energy from your heart, embellishing your sex, your pleasure, your aliveness. Then breathing up creative, life-giving energy from your sexual center into your heart center. imbuing the love, and on the exhalation, sending love from your heart center into your beautiful sexual creative pleasure center. One more breath, feeling it moving up and moving down, and notice how you're connected now between your sex and your heart, your life force, and your love energy. They are connected now, they communicate, they support each other. Taking your hands just 1 inch off, feel the flow. Feel the magnetism between your palms and the heart center and the pleasure center. You're connected. You are one between the heart and your sex. And then take your hands off. Notice how you're feeling right now. And if one of you just want to share how you feel right now, it would be great.
Well, it just never ceases to amaze me, the power of a simple breath work and consciousness and just moving the breath through your body and connecting different places in your body, your second chakra and your heart. I mean, it's so powerful. It's so simple. It's so easy to do. If everyone in the world was doing this every single day, we'd be living in a very different world.
And
Yeah.
So it's really miraculous.
how would you say you feel right now?
Well, I feel a sense of like I just had a moment of peace. It's like that was like a gift of peace in my life, where it was just feeling and being in the body, and I felt just a circuit of my heart and my creative center being in communication, right? Of like not being disconnected, but being fully connected, so that when someone asks me, how do you feel? It comes from that place, that there's peace between my sexual creative essence and my heart essence, that like love and passion are remembering, oh yeah, that's right, we dance really well together. So just bringing that awareness that, yeah, that's home.
Yeah, home.
I get a lot of visuals when I feel at that level. And I've just been hiking in these valleys and these caves in Turkey for 2 days. So I was just having the like sensation of being in the womb, really like being held by the divine mother, by the one who we all come from, this Pachamama that holds us. And so it was just feeling womby kind of energy. And just that, I think one of you referenced it earlier, maybe it was you, Freddie, of just like that we're not thinking, we're just in that absolute stillness, that space of all consciousness, right? Where there's not brain activity, but there's just a deep sense of being.
Yeah, and this thing is moment by moment, because even the deepest meditators, the mind is not stopped. But what I found in my practice and what I share with people is that if we start with breath awareness work and moving it like that, because oftentimes people start and you're giving them a suggestion, okay, bring the breath up into your heart. And you say that, and then they're thinking, okay, I'm thinking to bring the breath up, but okay, I'm waiting to feel something. I think I kind of felt, so the idea is, because of the mind's not going to stop, we use the focused mind and put
Right.
our attention on a location and sensation and intention to move it in the direction that we want to move it. And that really helps them develop, and helps, I find in my own experience, develop the mind's focus capacity to move into energetic breath or orgasmic energy or pain body energy, and starting to get into the somatics of the body and feeling and moving with the mind's focus, not just wandering and thinking, which is what it's going to do if you don't give it something to do. So
Right,
give
I
it
love it. It's like giving the mind a job.
right
Yeah.
attention on the sensation location, and intention to move it out, whatever,
Yeah.
up to the heart. Yeah, attention, intention.
Brilliant. Yeah. So how would you then, like after a student starts to find and establish, right, that current, that connection, that felt sense, how do they bring that to partnership?
Yeah, so this is a partner practice
Yeah.
where we're using the breath again. We're connecting, and usually you're just facing one another. And we call these tantric quickies. So like
Okay.
today, I've got a busy day, Elsa's got a busy day, and she might be at the computer, and I'm getting ready to head out. and I might just do a mudra with her in the front of the heart chakra, fourth chakra, and in the middle of the back, fourth
Actually,
chakra.
we got for people who are not so familiar with energy
And connectedness. This is an energy ball.
and we
you-
learned that from Charles. But
Yeah, Charles. Yeah, it's wonderful because it really illustrates a visual of this connectedness that exists just beyond this disconnect. So when I complete the connection within myself, the ball lights up.
Yeah, so for those of you who are listening to the podcast, maybe not watching it, they have this little white ball. It kind of looks like a ping pong ball. And
It's got
Freddie is holding, describe that, Freddie.
It's got a positive and a negative pole, and it works on basically open and closed systems like a light switch. But what happens and what makes it unique is that we become the switch. Anybody who breaks the connection breaks the circuit. And you can do it with large groups or small groups, but it's a great illustration of this connected, energetic self that we are.
Yeah, so now that they've got both hands, they're about to touch both hands. Freddie's hands and Elsbeth's hands are going to come together on the ball. And now it lights up as they connect to each other. So they each have a finger on the ball, but then they are also touching each other with the other hand. And when they release, it stops buzzing. And when they touch, it buzzes, completing the circuit.
Yeah.
So we really encourage you, if you are listening to this, head on over to YouTube and watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Watch it so you can see.
Get a ball, have a ball, be the ball.
And so
Have a ball, be the
when
ball.
you were,
Show us this mudra.
it looked like you were sandwiching her heart by having one hand on the front of her chest and then the other hand on the back.
Do it this way. So I'm just going to do one up front, touching the front of her chest and her touching the front of my fourth chakra center, the chest, the sternum. And we gaze into each other's left eye, the receptive center of the brain, and we synchronize our breath together. We exhale together. And then we receive on the inhalation from the hand of the heart into the heart. On the exhalation, we visualize sending into the other's heart, attention on the sensation and intention to move it, sending on the exhalation, receiving on the inhalation. And that becomes very visceral. Woo, the beginnings of the microcosmic orbit in terms of coitus, but it's a short little, sense of that.
Yeah. So this is when we said earlier, we want to first connect in emotional intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
We want to open the heart, my own heart, and then my heart to Freddy. Because if I'm not connected here, it's very difficult to connect with my yoni and his lingam, the penis, the sexual.
And you guys have a gift for our audience, which is called Heart-to-Heart Connection.
Right. We thought that everyone who is listening, that you can then bring this practice into your life, this heart-to-heart connection. And if you are by yourself, just instead of having your hand on the beloved's or the partner's heart or someone else's heart, just place the hands and co-center with yourself. Right hand on your sexual, the navel, the other one in the middle of your heart, and then you circulate within. Here we circulate with each other. Same principle, a little different form.
And is this meditation, is this something that they watch or is it something that they listen to?
It's a video.
It's a video.
Yeah.
Great.
So you can watch and do it until you're really familiar with it.
Perfect.
And you learn quickly.
Yeah. So we're going to have that free gift for you in the show notes, y'all. So be sure to click on that link and get your heart juiced up. Right. Speaking of juicy hearts, I wanted to just celebrate the two of you for a moment. I had such a lovely interaction with one of your students recently. Charles and I were doing an intro evening, and one of your amazing students was there, and they talked so highly about their work with you. And, it was probably a couple somewhere near my age, somewhere in their 40s, maybe their later 40s, 5 kids, right? Successful couple, and they were drifting apart. And they started to really come back together, and they really gave the two of you credit, the work that you so beautifully teach. And I could feel just from this hour with you, like, oh yeah, that's how they got rooted in, right? It's that emotional intimacy first. And like, they're so connected. You guys, like 20 years into marriage, 5 kids later, how many people do you know end up drifting apart and then not turning back towards each other? They're having the next greatest part of their love story happening right now. And my understanding is that like they're assisting at all of your workshops, and they've done like 3 or 4 of them already, and like their life has changed, and they've got meditation now, and they've got practices, and they've got intimacy, and they're showing up and trusting vulnerability between each other. And I just want to say, like, bravo, awesome work. You guys are working with couples. You've got a retreat coming up in Costa Rica in February. So that'll be 2023. Do you do those annually in case someone is listening to this a couple years later because they're binge listening to the podcast? Like, if they miss this Costa Rica, because I think you only have room for one more couple, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about what's in store for a couples retreat with the two of
This
you?
is actually the first. This is the second retreat we've done in Costa Rica. The first one was probably 8 or 9 years ago, but we may make it a regular thing after this one because we're loving Costa Rica.
Also because there was still the COVID hangover. Anyway, now people are ready to jump on it. And yes, this is the idea. We want to spend more, time in the warm hemisphere during the Chicago winters.
Good for you. Yes.
Smart.
Yeah. How else do you work with couples if not like in Costa Rica on retreat?
Yeah, so they can either come to Chicago, where we have workshops almost every month. Freddy teaches an all men's workshop. I teach an all women's workshop. Then we have our foundations workshop for couple and singles, where we teach how to cultivate emotional intimacy. And then the spark workshop, sexual intimacy, but the emotional intimacy workshop is a prerequisite. Or some couples don't want to work in groups.
Right.
That one-on-one attention. And they can either come, if they are in the area here, for a 3-month program and work with us in person, or they can do it online if they don't live in the Chicago area. Also a 3-month program. It's totally customized to their particular situation. So that's available as well. So we can work with people from all over the world.
Great. Awesome.
Beautiful.
And you have your book, Spiritual Enlightenment.
And one more thing for individuals, because often we get, once I'm going to have a partner, I will come to work with you. I said, no, start now.
Don't wait. Yeah.
And so in our workshops, anyone can come solo. I started out my work solo. Freddy was not in my life yet. And it was the biggest opening for me, and it enabled me to bring Freddy into my life, clear my unavailability patterns that didn't serve me. So they can come to our co-ed workshops. They get paired up with a practice partner, and that practice partner is there to assist you in learning, in opening that what eludes you, clear that. It's not about falling in love. It's not about picking up someone else. And you may find someone, but that is not what the intention is. It's really your own inner work.
Right.
Or then many women also start out working with me just to tap into their feminine essence, and then they may go on to the co-ed work, or great way for guys to work with Freddy to really connect with their sexual and then their heart energy, moving that testosterone energy up into their heart. Freddy is a great guide there.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the women's work seems more prevalent. Women go on retreats all together all the time. They tend to be more connected. And I think it'd be really helpful, Freddy, for you to describe like, what does men's work look like when they're working with you, especially around their sexuality?
Yeah. It's
and
really,
emotionality.
Yeah, the emotional piece is a big piece. So most of the guys, most of them are heterosexual. We do have a few bisexual, homosexuals that come through the group. In all of the workshops that we do, there's no nudity. so people can kind of be relieved or be disappointed or whatever.
All right.
So it's a 2-day workshop, and guys are really introduced to guys are like, there's 2 emotions for guys that are okay. That's fucking or fighting. So there's the emotional work. So we do a deep dive into an emotional practice that allows them to experience different types of emotions as a collective social meditation. And then there are other actionable insights and processes that they get and they do. And there's not much body work a little bit, but there is a self-love practice that is asked to do between the first day and the second day as a homework practice. And that's where the guys get to tap into what is one of the primary edicts for all the variations of Tantra there are, which is for the man to learn to separate ejaculation from orgasm. And that piece gets guys introduced to the vulnerability, the intimacy, aligned with intention, and also the physicality of just seeing how really attached we are to orgasms, or our big, is it big? Is it too hard? Is it big enough? Is it hard enough? And then beneath that, the love and the attachments and the jealousy and the falling in love and being hurt and all of the stuff that happens in this intimate vulnerability. So guys come back the second day from that workshop. They're also team building practices that we do drumming, which is one of the things we do.
Cool.
Drumming. And you don't have to be an expert drummer to do it. We teach some very basic things that really allow someone to drop into what happens as a tribe of a listener and a participant in that space. And guys are really good at that. And so that really starts to tap them in at a deeper level. And the conversations that happen for guys when it's just guys talking about the sexual stuff, they get to see themselves in each other. And they see how really pervasive this unconsciousness is for us guys. I mean, the new man is a Tantra man. He's got to integrate masculine, feminine, yin yang balance. So guys who come are really motivated to see something. They are coming with a beginner mind. They are curious. So it's really a great place for guys to come and keep elevating their conscious EQ, physicality, love, heart, connection.
Yeah. Being a partner of a man who's done men's work, I can tell you before men's work and after men's work, my lover, husband, best friend is so much more connected to himself.
Yeah.
And what he brings to us is richer and fuller and has more dimension. I can't tell you how transformative it is to be in a committed relationship with someone who's dedicated to themselves and the relationships outside this relationship. So I really encourage everyone to have a self-cultivation practice. And if you don't know how, these are 2 wonderful people that will help mentor you. And then what you bring to the table in love and in partnership just gets richer. And then they're there for you there as well.
The book.
What's the best place for people to get the book?
Yeah, so Sexual Enlightenment, it's available on Amazon in hard copy, in Kindle, and in Audible, like in audio books, so whatever you like, however you like to consume your books is available. And it really guides you further through what we touched on today in the conversation. There are also some practices in there. So you can just pick it up there.
We'll definitely have the show
for
notes
sure.
to get the book. Absolutely.
What a pleasure to sit with you guys again and drop into all of this wisdom and all of this medicine.
We got to do something. I want to do a Tantra caravan across the country. We're going to have some provost motor coaches and some big tents, and we're going to be doing Tantra work along the way and great food. And we're going to video the whole thing and make a documentary or a Netflix show out of it.
I
love it.
Let's do
it.
You guys got to be a part of it.
Do it.
Yeah.
Do it. Yeah, we're there. Count us in.
Thank you, Freddy and Elsbeth, and love, 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 love.
Yeah, thank you so much for this amazing conversation, for your guidance, for your wisdom, both of you. And we just love to be in conversation with you.
Yeah, quite inspiring. Thank you both so much.
Now, our favorite part, the dish.
Oh, let's dish it. Let's dish on it. Freddie and Elsbeth.
Yeah.
What did you guys think?
Oh, it was so great. I just always enjoy sitting with those 2. I think because their nervous systems are a match for mine. I just love the way they're very calm and centered and even keeled. And Freddy is always sparking off this wisdom. It just comes with so much ease and grace for him. And I like that Elsbeth has this more kind of like analytical, like let's go through the steps kind of mind. And I think they exemplify totally different brains can be a great match for each other.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had the same feeling too. It was like you have this academic piece about Elsbeth, and then you have this artist thing, creative, like with Freddy. And then you have the masculine sort of yang sense of Freddy and still like the feminine sort of yin essence of Elsbeth. It's just such a lovely pair. They're such a handsome couple. And I really love them. But this episode was really fun to just tap into the whole sexual enlightenment piece, because I think a lot of people are unfamiliar with how spirituality and sexuality can come together. And like I mentioned on the episode, when people think about enlightenment, they think they have to go to a guru or something in order to attain something, when really it's already there inside of us. So I like how the spiritual, sexual enlightenment aspect kind of comes from that doorway.
Yeah, I think that's probably the juice and the medicine and the soundbite of this whole episode, is that, whatever it is that you are seeking on a spiritual level is already inside of you, and you really can use the hormones of heightened sexuality to open up those portals inside of your brain to access a deeper connection with your body, so that there you are in the present moment. And that is really where enlightenment lives, is in the present moment, where you can be in full congruence with your head, heart, and gut. So they really speak so eloquently to it. And I just love the way that Freddy's kept talking about the clay body. I love that. He's like, we're just clay. I'm like, yeah, we're clay.
Me too. Yeah. So we are made of the earth, this clay. Yeah. I think another thing that was one of my favorite parts of the episode is really looking at, if you think there's a problem in your relationship or with your partner, I think there's often an emphasis when it comes to sex and having like emotional pain regarding sex in your relationship, usually because there could be like a libido quote unquote mismatch or something, or maybe your relationship has been starved for intimacy for a long time. How like the place to begin the process of change, transformation, and healing starts with you. It's not about your partner changing as much as it's about understanding that the fullness of your sexual expression is an inside job. And if you can get some support there and go through your own personal transformation, then what you're bringing to the relationship as a sexual being gets cleaned up, because it's now starting to remove like blame, judgment, criticism, hurt. I mean, yes, it's a two-way street and partnership has to come together. But I think looking at sexual enlightenment from that standpoint, like if you want more sex in your relationship, then be this thing that something can be attracted to.
Yeah.
And if everything else you've tried so far hasn't been working, it's not opening up your partner, there isn't a sense of like, okay, we're coming together, then do the inside job and inspire your partner to see the transformation in you. And with hope and faith, they may decide to go on the inside job of their own transformation and do the inner work that they need to do to get clarity about what it is that they most desire and what they most want. And the two of you can find your way back to each other. But if we could just find the patience, I think when a lot of clients, I'm curious what's been your experience with your students and clients, Willow, when a couple comes to me, one of them is really impatient and they're hurt and they're pissed off because they want more sex and intimacy, and it's already been a long time. So when I'm asking them to like drop into more patience, it can be really frustrating because what they want is me to convince their partner to open up and start having more sex, or else then the D word starts to come into play, or this idea that they want to leave. What's
Yeah.
been your experience with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we really brought to this interview. You know, this couple that so many of us have worked with, who the one of them is like, I want more connection. I want more intimacy. I want to feel cherished by my partner. I want to feel connected with my partner. And it's been years that we haven't. So they're in a rut, they're in a pattern. And yeah, the one who's like, give it to me already, does have that lack of patience. I really think that there's the opportunity there for that one who's really feeling impatient about the whole thing to go deeper within. And that's what they kept speaking to and kept talking about. And they also said, don't give up. That was one of the things that Elsbeth really spoke to a lot. She just said, if you're the one who wants to create more sexuality, intimacy, and connection within your long-term relationship that hasn't had it for years and years and years, don't give up. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on your partner. Like, really go deep within yourself to find and access that place that is going to be magnetic and is going to draw your partner closer to intimacy with you.
Yeah, it was a good reminder too, just as a professional practitioner, to not give up on couples. You know, because like sometimes it can be a little frustrating when you're working with a couple and they're just coming from such opposite ends and they're not finding a malleability to come towards each other, to like turn towards. And it feels like those little successes of like turn towards can be so infrequent. Keep staying connected to the love. So we even kind of talked about this, not directly, but indirectly on the episode of helping people uncouple. And when is it that you do need to throw in the towel and go, okay, maybe what the path is showing us is to go in different directions. And I think that's why it's so important, again, to do the solo work, because that's where you're going to get clarity. If you can both go on the inside to do this piece around your own sovereign truth, like two things tend to occur. Either you're going to discover your way back, or you're going to discover that the journey is taking you in another direction. And then how do you want to process if it's going in another direction? Can you move on with love? Can you move on with support for each other, even if it means dividing real estate and possessions and travel miles, you know? Right, and the children. I do think there's something to be said about like, how can you care for the ending of a relationship from a place of friendship? So I guess we can leave it on that note, y'all. Go and discover for yourself that your sexuality is your responsibility, and be a friend to yourself and a friend to your lover.
Thanks for tuning in. If the hosts seem to know what they were talking about, that's because they do. Leah Piper is a Tantric sex master coach and a positive psychology facilitator. Dr. Willow Brown is both a Chinese and functional medicine doctor and a Taoist sexology teacher. Don't forget, your comments, likes, subscribes, and suggestions matter. Let's realize this new world together.